Anytime we approach a text, we bring with us the prior knowledge and experiences that we've had with texts, both in school and out of school. We'll also bring with us the skills or tools that we've learned in past classes. In this case in particular, we are going to pay attention to the DP areas of exploration and the guiding questions that we're working with. We've approached a text. In this case, we've watched a film. In class, we've used the Socratic method, questioning as a way to discover truth. We've discussed the film because learning is social, and you've ultimately already written about it. So you've thought about it independently. You've talked with your peers about it. We've discussed as a class, and then you've even done some writing on your own to help you develop an interpretation. All of this happens in the context of a learning community. In this case, grade 11, English class. At this point, our goal is to move beyond, to use research and inquiry to move beyond. So our guiding questions: how can I become more knowledgeable about this? And ultimately, how can we write about a text? What we're going to do is consult the experts. It would be great to invite the world's most accomplished film critics to sit down with us and discuss the film we just watched. Of course, that's not possible logistically, but what is just as good is to synthesize the best written criticism of the film. Now we are engaging expert perspectives on the film. Expert, when I say expert, I just mean that they have more knowledge, they have more experience, and they have more skill in writing about film. So the prerequisites, all that you need to bring with you is a kind of an open mind, a willingness to think, but I think most importantly, a reflective mind, a careful consideration of your own understanding before the research, and awareness of how new perspectives influence your evolving ideas. So we've encountered some expert perspectives, and ultimately, your next step is to sort of choose a trail and to follow that trail. Follow the trail, it will lead you. Trust your open mind and your ability to think critically. So what you need to do is select an idea or a detail that feels new or surprising or puzzling or insightful or perceptive, something you hadn't really considered before or something you hadn't fully realized before, and then you pursue that. So an example, one student really focused in on this absurd tragicomedy. Now, in our Socratic seminar, in our class discussions, no 11th graders said elements of absurd tragicomedy, right? That is, those words require a kind of knowledge and experience, and they just don't sound like the words of an 11th grader. But when we're looking at perspectives on the film, we do come across this language. And for you as a researcher, just picking up on that detail is a place to start. So if I were to pick up on that absurd tragicomedy, I would first ask, okay, what do we mean by the absurd? And I can learn that in a quick Google search. What do we mean by tragicomedy? And I can get some basic idea what those things mean. When I look at those elements, maybe I choose one or two from the absurd, one or two from tragicomedy that would maybe apply to this film. Now you're thinking critically, you're applying new lenses, new concepts, and new terminology that you might not have been aware of before, and you're using your own brain to process, does this apply? In what way does this apply? Pursue that line of inquiry, follow the trail, it will lead you. This is when we come to the they say, I say templates. And they say, I say, the Graff and Birkenstein text, they say that we start by summarizing others, in this case experts, film critics, to set up our own argument. That's the I say. So we use the templates to move beyond simply agreeing or disagreeing, which is sort of simplistic. We want to move towards more critical thinking. Ultimately, these templates can enable us to situate our own thinking and our own argument within the discourse. In the argument that you ultimately develop about the text, your job won't be to recount a narrative of your research journey, right? So you won't have sentences like, first I thought, and then I realized, or so then I Googled elements of the absurd, and what I found, right? You won't do that. That is part of the process, but it's ultimately not part of the product, which is your written essay about a text. Another pitfall would just be to overstate things without any nuance or subtlety. So to say something like, I completely disagree with this film critic who says, almost always that's going to take you down the wrong path. And it really sort of misunderstands the assumptions of interpreting a text. Since that expert is interpreting a text, there's no expectation that you have to agree fully with them, and your thinking, your interpretation, your cultural background or experience or beliefs may lead you to other interpretations, which is fine. But I would say in general, you want to avoid this kind of language. I completely disagree. And finally, overquoting. You really need to zoom into what's most urgent, compelling, puzzling, or new, that which can open up a new line of inquiry. I've created a model to give you an idea of what this process looks like and also what the final product can look like as well. And you'll see I started with research notes. I read those extracts, those same extracts you're working with, and I just selected 2 details which I found to be interesting, which made me think. And I really want you to notice that they're small details, right? Just the idea of fairy tales or quasi-mythical elements in the text. And then this one little line that never reducing her subject's humanity that came from the Roger Ebert piece, I found that compelling in context. So I literally just copied it over into my research notes, pretty minimal here. And those were the starting points for me to produce this paper.